So the first, and as we get started, I would like to bust a few myths and I'd like to talk about what this really means in terms of enterprise agility. So first myth that I want to bust or which I want to talk about is Agile is equal to Scrum. Lot of people think, oh, if I'm doing a daily stand-up, oh, we are Agile. If I am running sprints every 2 weeks, I am Agile. Or this is the only way to become Agile. But and in fact, when I do my classes also, I a lot of times hear a question. Oh, we are in a service management industry and we are trying to run 2 week sprints, but we are not able to handle that. Does that mean Agile applies only to the software development industry or something else? So let's try to give some clarity around here. So when we talk about Agile or Agile software development, it emanates from the Agile Manifesto. So that means the four principles of the manifesto or four parts of the manifesto are primarily the Bible, Gita or Quran of what we talk about agility. People matter more over processes, working product over comprehensive documentation, responding to change over following a plan, and the fourth one, where we talk about customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Now, as long as your process, your organization, your way of working, you are able to follow all these in the right way, you may be agile without following Scrum or any other methodology. So, so that is something that we first need to bust and that we first need to focus upon. The next myth that we need to then clear is enterprise agility is equal to engineering agility and IT agility. So when we talk about enterprise agility, it is not just the engineering team or technology teams or technical teams that only need to learn about agile methods, they need to talk about agile methods. When we say agility, we are talking about organization-wide agility. So that means HR is involved, sales is involved, we have the contract person who write the contracts or RFP guy, they are involved. Even operations or admin is involved on how to set up the right office space. Correct? So that is something which is very, very important to understand when we talk about enterprise agility. So let's come back. Because Rohan rightly reminded me that we talked about the blind man 2 that we had to talk about. So I kind of quickly move forward. So let me get back there, Rohan. So the second blind man, what he will think about as enterprise agility is that if we certify each and everyone on agile methods, let's say everybody gets a certified Scrum Master, or everybody gets a SAFe certification, or everybody gets a DAD certification, then we are agile. Even though yes, I am a certified Scrum trainer too, and it is my bread and butter. But just getting everyone certified does not mean, oh, now you are agile. In fact, that also leads to me to my next slide, which I have seen people talking, oh, we are now going SAFe because Scrum does not work for us. Now, enterprise agility is not just about scaled agile framework or Nexus or LESS or any of these frameworks. Enterprise agility is way beyond that. It basically has to include every function. It has to include every individual who gets affected by using agile practices in your organization. At the same time, when we talk about the mindset issue, so we are looking for the mindset from a customer perspective, from the executive team, from the CEO perspective, right to the junior most trainee engineer who would have joined probably last month or last week. So we are talking about everyone in the organization attuned to what we call as agility, right? And that not only means setting up just one process, it means a total culture shift across the organization. So Saurabh has a question about the blind man 3. So let me quickly go back there and try to explain it once more. So sort of just to explain it further, and once again for everyone who might have missed it. When we say enterprise agility, it is not just about engineering people or the technology guys who need to understand about agility. Everyone, right from HR to admin to operations to maybe the CEO and the CXO, they need to understand what agility means in reality. And it is not just about setting up Scrum. So you have to think beyond that. So, and this is the part I have read in the next slide also. Now let's come to, and this is probably, I'm sure most of you would have definitely seen in your 2016 goals. Or we are going to be agile by 2016. Or we have by in next 6 months, 70% of our projects need to be in agile. Now this is one of the biggest and the most wrong statements I've seen coming in from a CXO or a CIO. The reason being, agile cannot be a target at any point of time, because agility is a mindset. It is a mean to reach your goals. So if you are thinking about agility or agile software development as your way of working, first you have to think what are the business goals we want to achieve, and what agile practices or what way of working is going to help us get there, right? Just taking agile as a target means you are violating even the very basic or the very first principle of agility, which is people matter more over processes. We are saying, oh, because what I've seen then is we are setting target of agile in 2016, and then comes a checklist from the quality department or the business excellence team which says, okay, do these 10 things in every project and we are agile. And then we have the very wonderful agile audits, we have very wonderful assessments, and so on and so forth. Now, in my classes, some of you are aware, I have always compared Agile with a religion. So that means it contains certain practices, it contains certain values. So or a philosophy rather. So every philosophy has certain values and principles, and so has Agile been. So can we measure really? Oh, I'm 30% religious, or I'm 60% Hindu today. You cannot really measure it. So trying to measure agility objectively is something that telling someone, oh, you are only 50%, you only follow religion 50% of the time. That's not true, and that is something you cannot really measure, because everyone will have a different perspective. The important part here is to follow the core principles and the manifesto. As long as your organization is going to follow those, the processes you can use from Scrum, you can use from Extreme Programming, you can use from DSDM, you can use from SAFe, LESS, and so on and so forth. So, and that's where I think I'm going to come later also on what do we do next basically, and I'm going to discuss further more on this topic. Now, another wonderful thing that I've been seeing in a lot of organizations now, and in fact, I see a lot of job descriptions also coming if you go to naukri.com or shine.com or one of those portals. We are looking for an agile project manager and scrum master. Agility or scrum is simply not the original or the traditional project management painted with the scrum word. It means a totally different mindset. It means a totally different way of thinking. And that also means whosoever is the person taking a role, they need to bring in a certain mindset. For now, because we are agile, just assigning project manager now the scrum master job does not mean the right mindset which is required to form that role is a part of it. Right? So agility simply does not mean, oh, now you are a project manager because we are going agile, you are now an agile manager or a scrum master or whatever you want to call that. Right? And in fact, I have seen some wonderful career paths also created: Scrum Master, Senior Scrum Master, Principal Scrum Master, and then the Agile Coach. Now, that is also in fact not a path itself. So this is something that the leaders, that the HR, that the organization needs to understand, that we are not just whitewashing the original project management way and calling it agile. So this is something we are talking about. So Deepak, you are absolutely right. When we say Scrum Master as a role comes from Scrum. So the question that Deepak has, just for the benefit of others, uh, project manager, Scrum Master are different people. Am I right? Now, the important part to understand here is is the person whosoever is taking that particular role, is he carrying the right mindset? If a project manager can let go of being able to control the team can feel comfortable working with the manager, being able to share everything under the sun, then only maybe yes. But I have not seen many managers being able to do this, that the team feels very comfortable, they are almost buddies, they can probably have some drinks together, or they can go to a movie together and share everything under the sun. So this is something that we need to be careful about. Okay. So Prakash, I would probably get some more elaboration if I can get it. Prakash says in his view, it should be same mindset instead of the same person. Now, if a person is able to change their mindset and be able to work in a totally different way, absolutely yes. Then we have no issues. But this mindset change, it's not just I can put somebody on a 2-day class and say now change your mindset. A mindset change is something which takes time to bring on, and I should also see why should I change. And if that change is difficult, obviously it takes time for the person to be able to accept a new role in the new environment. And that's how I've seen a lot of project managers slash scrum masters falling back to their project management ways. So this is something we have to be careful about. Now, another part that I almost invariably get across when I'm talking to a lot of Indian corporates, and this is a chronic problem that I've seen with the Indian corporates. Oh, we are a very large organization. We have 100,000 people. So we can definitely mentor and coach our team members internally. We don't need anybody external to be able to coach us and mentor us. The moment you are saying that, one risk you have created for yourself is the person who is going to be coaching, the person who is going to be mentoring. If he has already been a part of the system for some time, that means a lot of things like if I call it in Hindi, chalta hai. This is something that this is part of the organizational culture. I should not try to change it. Unless your coach is a disruptor, that he can disrupt the thought process, he can disrupt the way of working, he can disrupt the way of thinking. The coach is not going to be very effective, and this is something I can put it very bluntly, right? So having internal coaches, yes, it saves you a lot of cost, but it also slows down your progress to a new way of thinking and process. So you have to be careful. And the moment you hire someone also the payrolls, they have to be very careful that after 3 months, 6 months, you don't fall into the same mindset. Or this is how it happens here. So this is something that we have to really avoid. So if by spending a few more extra bucks, if you're able to bring in the real changes, I would really ask the organizations to be able to try to do that. I try to say, no, we will hire internally, the cost is so much more less and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not saying this just to say because I have to sell my coaching skills and so on and so forth. But I have seen many organizations failing because they said, oh, we had an internal coach. We are working with Agile for 4 years, but we have no clue where we are going. So can you come and help us? So almost 70 to 80% of my customers or my clients that we have within AgiVetta, we have almost, they have been working with Agile methods for last 3 to 4 years. And now they think we need to do something different. This is not working, right? So we are, I always call myself kind of a mechanic who has to repair the accidents or accidental Agile coach if somebody would have attended my classes. So we are called in to repair the accidents. So this is something we have to understand first when we talk about enterprise agility. Now, I have posed a lot of questions. I'm sure it gets confusing also a lot. Okay, now what really we do now, right? How do we really manage this thing? Because whatever common thought process we have, now you are kind of challenging this. Somebody's tried to raise their hand. Can I recommend them to put a question on the question window? Now, I want to present from my experience just a few tips and a few things on how we can probably make this elephant dance, how we can make sure that this elephant really can walk. Now, the very first question that I always say is to ask why we are doing this. What is the end goals that you want to receive, to achieve? So asking a why from the Scrum Master, from the manager, and from everyone who's involved to the person who's actually taking the decision is something which is very important, right? So why are we doing this, what are the end goals you want to achieve, and then you design a roadmap for your transformation. So that is something which is very important for everyone to understand across the organization. Why are we doing this? Right? Okay. The second part that I want to talk about is, so I paused to read a little question from Sanjay. So Sanjay is saying, if at what point in time I will know if Scrum is working for my company or maybe Agile is working for my company. So this is exactly what I was just now talking, Sanjay, that when you ask that question, why are we doing this? That means you'll also baseline certain expectations. This is where we are currently, maybe in terms of time to market, maybe in terms of attrition, maybe in terms of what we want to do. And after 6 months, where do we want to be? Or after this transformation, so where does want to be? This is where you create your baseline KPIs, baseline matrices, whatever you want to call that. And then you should be able to see that in these 2 months, we were able to change from point A to point B. This is where your real success is. So when you start your transformation, whether it is for one team or for a large organization, you have to baseline the expectations and also set your goals. Now I come to the next part, which if you see on the screen, it says cook your own dog food. Now it simply means that because agility is a philosophy, when we talk about agile as a philosophy, everybody will follow the philosophy or the religion in a different way. So that means while the underlying principles and values are the same, the way of following will be totally different. The practices, the rituals that we use might be totally different, right? In fact, just to take an example from Scrum, I always call Scrum a social technology. That means there are different ways to do the meetings, there are different ways to achieve the results, and there will be different goals which are set. So same way, when you talk about agility, for every organization, for every team, it might mean totally different. That also means the practices that you might use for a hardcore software development project might be totally different from what is in the maintenance project, from what an HR team would use or a recruitment team would use. So this is something that you will have to experiment, you have to work with, and then find your own path. In fact, somebody on LinkedIn today asked me a question. Can you please present me case studies on how you have made the organization succeed? Yes, you will find thousands of case studies spread across the internet. Oh, how a particular organization, particular company actually did it. But because your organization, your team is unique, if you tend to copy these case studies, it would restrict your thinking process and your innovation that you want to bring about. So it is very, very important for everyone to find out their own way. And this is what agility really talks about. People matter more over processes, right? Uh, and then, so Ashutosh asked about a question that how do we convince the upper management um, in terms of if they are not ready to support agile methods or Scrum, how do I convince them? So this is where, Ashutosh, I go to your next part, which says create value for everyone, right? Why should your CIO support you? What's the benefit his role or him in person gets out of your agile transformation? Why should the engineers who are working on the project, they should comply with you or they should work with you, right? Whatever your thought process, whatever process you have to bring in. So unless you create value for everyone in the chain, right from the customers to the sales guys to your manager, we cannot expect support from them because this is your thought process. So what benefit they are going to get? On the next slide, I'm going to discuss more about this in the new framework that I developed, what I call as the value-driven behavior management. So we will talk about this more. Now the fourth part that I have said is to devolve. Now, a lot of times I've seen the agile transformations are driven top down. In fact, more so in last 1 year that I've seen, every agile option that I'm seeing is driven top down because CIO or the CEO had a eureka moment. Oh, we want to be agile, or the customer said we want to be agile, and then the whole process started. Very, very few companies where it starts horizontally or from the bottom. Now, this is where you are falling back into the same trap that we had with traditional project management or waterfall, whatever you like to call it. Unless a particular person, unless a particular individual in your organization is sold out on why they should do it, you can expect them to be not working towards the your goals of agility or your walk towards agility, or even worse, being tried to sabotage it. So those people who are not bought in, they are probably going to pull you back. So you might sustain for 1 year and then after 2 years you revert back to the same old ways. So these are the people that you need to talk to and make sure everybody is on board. Now, a very wonderful technique that I have found out for, and you should guys should also definitely visit that website. It's called as Open Space Agility. Open Space Agility is a wonderful way of agile transformation where we focus on the power of opt-in, where we focus on the power of choice everyone has not to be a party of it. So if you get a time, go to openspaceagility.com. If you have any doubts, you can obviously talk to me also later on. We are shortly going to in fact arrange a webinar focused on open space agility from AgiVetta side. The next part that I want to talk about is engaging all across. So that means engaging people both vertically and horizontally. So your peers, HR, admin, this is something I've been repeating. So engage both vertically and across. And the last part, when we talk about enterprise agility, it does not mean a particular location. It does not mean a particular geography. It does not mean a particular team. Enterprise agility means you will have to bring in the same principles, values, thought process across. That means if you are three teams sitting in, one in Australia, one in US and one in India, all three of them need to think the same way. That might mean you will have to invest in collaboration tools, you might have to invest in communication tools, you will have to invest in people traveling and co-locating at least for a short interval, right? And so that is the cost that you definitely would have to incur when we talk about a complete enterprise agility. Now, how it would transform in which form for your organization, that might be totally different. Now, so these were the 6 points I want to talk about when we talk about enterprise agility. And now I want to talk about one thing I promised to Ashutosh, where we talk about value-driven behavior management. So I encourage all Scrum Masters and coaches to create this kind of a metric or a chart that you see on the slide now. Okay. And so, for example, let's talk about the CIO and CXO. They and the customer, they are more interested in data. They are more interested in numbers. So, what numbers are you going to showcase to them that this is how we are making a progress? As I said, it could be in terms of attrition rate, it could be in terms of net promoter score, and a lot of these KPIs you can build upon. In case you want to know about more, you can look at our previous webinars also, where we did a webinar on same Agile Manifesto. So choose some data that you want to showcase every month, every quarter to your leadership team. The second part comes, I flip over to the bottom where we talk about technology. So the engineers, the team members, the geeks, they are more interested in what technology you are bringing to them, what trainings you are bringing to them, what tools are you bringing to them, right? So as a scrum master, as a coach, as a manager, you need to bring them the right value in terms of the technology aspects of it. And then I always say the burger patty or the cheese slice, whatever you want to call them, the managers, they are always looking for the right process on how would it make them have a good night's sleep. These are the roles, this is how the templates work, and this is how the output you can expect. So if you are able to bring these three elements and in fact create a little metric of sorts, where on the first column you write down the name of the person or the most difficult role that you want to engage. In the second column you put what value in your opinion would this guy be looking for. And in the third step you put the action items uh, on how are you going to put those action items in place so that we are able to generate some value for all these roles. So this is something that you have to continuously think about. Good. So when we talk about enterprise agility, propagating these values across and to the across and horizontally is something which is very important. Good. Now, as we tend towards closer, I'd like to ask a few more. I would like to try to answer a few more questions, and then we'll try to see how we can work on this. So another question that I got from Christian earlier was that what would be the initial steps to influence the project team to change mindset, and this is what I just now mentioned. Okay. And Rajendra also gives an example that their on-site team does a separate daily stand-up, and then the off-site team does a different stand-up. As long as the backlogs are different, the team goals are different, that might be okay. Otherwise, they will definitely have some trouble reaching their goals. Another important aspect which Rohan raised about is that there might be multiple vendors that a particular customer is working for. So how would they be affected? And not all may have similar contracts. Now this is something where you need a thread. It's like a pearl of strings. So you need someone to act as a pearl of strings, or the string of the pearls, I would rather say, to be able to help get all this together. Even if there's one common touch point between all the vendors in certain form, it could be we meet every week, or it could be we are following the same process, and something that you can continuously and give as a common targets to all the vendors. So this is something that you would always have to think about. What is that common string which can bind all my vendors? Good. The next question I want to answer is from Rajarshi, who says, how is open space agility different from scale? Open space agility gives you a way of transformation. It tells you how do you bring about transformation in an organization. It is focused on the open space technology and Prime OS. These are the two open source culture technologies that have been extensively used across the globe when we talk about culture change. So this is something which we can focus upon. And SAFE is more focused on how do we scale up Scrum, how do we scale up multiple roles and so on. OSA does not talk about many roles. Satish has a basic question, though I probably we are not part of this particular topic. So Scrum, Satish talks about, does Scrum Master know should have technical knowledge? Now I think I mentioned earlier in this webinar, whosoever is playing the role of a Scrum Master or change agent, they need to bring in the right mindset to be able to bring about that change. So if that also means I need to have some technical knowledge, maybe, but in most Scrum Masters, I'm not seeing that as an essential requirement. Vagesh has a question about, I mentioned one of the 6 values that you can bring in. I talk about devolve. Devolve is basically the decision-making authority on what agility means for us should not be in the hands of a coach or a leader or a CIO or a CTO. True to the agile principles, it should lie in the hand of people who are really supposed to follow this. You do an open space, you do kind of a fishbowl where you bring in people together, they decide what works for us. Next question I'm taking from Rudra. Processes, yes, so Rudra, just to answer that question, process is given lower importance, but the slide talks about process. So how are we talking about agility? Now, when we talk about process in this perspective, when I say, and in this particular slide, the process is not decided by one person or by the quality team and so on. This is the process which may be decided by the team. So as the first principle says, people matter more over processes, right? So it's the people who will decide what process works for them and what does not, and they should have all the authority to be able to change the process. Yet when we are talking about a managerial mindset change, because the way they have evolved, the way this role has been wired across generations, they are also looking for, okay, this is the template, this is the role, this is how we go about it. Agile does not say no process, but the right process which works for the team. So as long as you're able to bring a balance between these two things, absolutely great. Deepak has a question, last question that I want to talk about is, can we talk something about the data part? Now data part, as said, is the right KPIs, right matrices that you can build. So it may be, let's focus on, by using agile methods, we will bring in lower attrition rate. By focusing on agile methods, we'll have better time to market. So what are the company goals, the executive goals, the leadership goals, and being able to align with those goals. So that is something, when I say data on this particular side, that's what we mean. Uh, Abhishek, I just now mentioned some. Abhishek talks about what matrices could be used to show real value adds post agile adoption. So productivity increase, time efficiency is some that I'm using, but what else? So as I just now mentioned, Abhishek, we need to talk about what the business leaders talk about. Stock options, how are we going to increase the shareholder value? How are we going to increase the total number of customers or the logos that we have? How are we going to increase or decrease overall cost of operation? So this is something that you really need to think about as a product owner, as a team, and so on. Tushar has a question, will Agile affect the technological advancement? I would say if we implement Agile practices in the correct way, they inherently help you and support you in innovation. Now, this is something which is the biggest myth which I have seen. Oh, agile means no innovation, right? Because we are so much focused on sprints and so on and so forth. But in my one of my webinars, I talked about a concept called as past, present, and future. If you're investing into your future, if you're setting up your capacity in the right way, you can very well go for technological advancements also. So Sanjay Singh is an interesting question. So at what point or time do you see ownership that makes to advise and to follow agile method and so on? What are the key things that you see most traditional methods do not achieve but it can achieve the following agile? In fact, I like that word that Sanjay used. What is the reason of black magic behind transforming from traditional methods to agile methods? The metaphor that I want to give is I talk about banking, and I'm sure some of you are definitely from the banking industry. I'm sure a lot of you would have not gone to your bank branch in last 3 to 6 months. And in fact, my bank branch still is in Hyderabad, though I kind of am based in Gurgaon for the last 4 years, right? So that means the way we are delivering value to the customers, the rapid growth that we are looking for in terms of the customer satisfaction and so on, sometimes traditional methods delay us in achieving that. Now, I'm not saying that waterfall was not good. Waterfall in its own time was definitely good. Even now, for certain projects where you are absolutely sure about the output and input, it may be good. But to a rapidly changing environment where you focus more on customer collaboration, where you probably talk to them every day and so on, that's where maybe the picture of agile methods come into picture. But unfortunately, right now the agile adoptions I see across, not only in India, across the world, it's more about either I am also part of the rat race because my competitors, my customers are doing so, or because it is the latest buzzword in the market. That's how we want to do that. Deepak, to answer your question, yes, the webinar recording will be available within a week on our website. Ashutosh, interesting question. So Ashutosh has a question which says, will Scrum Master need to be part of resource hiring for the team? And I would say, why not? When you are hiring people with the right mindset, it may actually be a good idea that maybe in some cases Scrum Master actually sits down to the interview to help to understand the right mindset and whether the person can be groomed in a certain way or this guy might actually prove not so good for the team perspective. We don't just focus on their technical skills, but also on their interpersonal skills in terms of building a great team. Deepak, your question is also interesting, which I'd like to answer quickly and before we close. Does the use of tool matter in agile implementation? I would say the only tool that I have always recommended and which always works best is a whiteboard, right? Because that's where you are forcing people to be visible, to the data to be visible and so on. The moment you switch to any of these online tools, uh, it is always optional. Oh, I have to log in and then my internet connection is not working and so on. The moment you make visibility optional, uh, it is out of sight and out of mind. So this is something that you have to think about. You might be using any of the online tools, Zira version 1 and so on. Are you able to showcase that dashboard to your team members in a live environment where it is continuously scrolling? Then probably you can probably get it. Last 3 questions I'm answering. So one comes from Ashutosh Mahapatra. He says, will Scrum Master be responsible if Scrum team is not motivated? If yes, what action Scrum Master needs to do to motivate the team? Uh, I think you raised a very interesting part, Ashutosh. In fact, I'm going to take this down as a future webinar topic. So shortly, probably will hear from me that the role of a Scrum Master and how this guy can motivate the team. I want to shortly put up whatever little experience I have got in this world to be able to do this. The next question, the second last question comes from Chandan. How can we change the mindset of middle management, right? Uh, the middle management, as you said, see, every manager, and I call them cheese slices for a reason, they have always a nightmare, a dream every night. I want to make sure no escalations tomorrow and everything is smooth and on. So are you able to give them that confidence? Yes, what we are doing is correct. Our predictability is 100%. Whatever we have committed to, we will be able to achieve it. Whether it is a sprint, it is today, and so on and so forth. As long as you're able to do that, I'm sure they get convinced. Now, another bigger fear I've seen is agile will take my job. I have not seen in any organizations agile taking managers' jobs away. Yes, the role expands, it gives them a better landscape. So that is also something as a value you need to create for your managers, right? And I think Bala Subramaniam also has a kind of a mixed point on this, that what is the role of project manager in sprint cycles and so on. See, there are few roles which are still out of the scope of the Scrum team. For example, hiring, appraisals, and so on and so forth. So you need still someone to do that. Whether it's a manager, line manager, project manager, delivery manager, whatever you want to call them. So organization roles and Scrum roles are very, very different, right? So this is something that you need to create a kind of a mapping on who can take up this role, what is the mindset you're looking for, and then you are able to take it forward, right? Sanjay, I am going to go to absolutely the last question, because Sanjay says, is scaling possible in Scrum and can it be applied in portfolio and program level? If yes, how it is different in SAFe? So if you see the SAFe or the level 1 or level 0 of SAFe, it actually talks about Scrum only and nothing else. And a rival framework to see is less, the large scale Scrum from Basford and Craig Lorman. So I would also recommend, if you would go through some of that material to on the website www.less.works, less.works, you will probably find a comparison as well as how you can really scale up Scrum. Because even SAFe I see, if I kind of devolve it down to the smallest possible chunk, it is actually a multi-level Scrum, a Scrum of Scrum of Scrum. Scrum at a portfolio level, Scrum at a program level, and Scrum at a team level. So I do not see in any other way how teams would be able to scale up and so on. If you talk about DAD, if you talk about DSDM, there are also some form of multi-level iteration or multi-level Scrum. So do read through some of these frameworks. I'm sure you will have a lot of inputs and insights into what we need. So Ramesh, the website is www.less.works. Okay. Yes. So Vipul, your feedback is definitely taken. So this is where we kind of end our narrative today, where we have talked about. I have tried to give you some tips today and how you can work upon various methods, what mindset you need to bring in, and so on and so forth. Now, incidentally, we have introduced to word also a new concept in terms of enterprise agile transformation. So this is in fact comes from AgiVetta. If you see, the P stands for the principles of enterprise agile success. So these are the 10 principles that we've been working with the customers in terms of when we say we are enterprise-wide agile. So we focus on people power, we bring in positivity, we focus on, yes, we still focus on profits, we focus on predictability, and there's a purpose and passion that you bring to the table. But if you want to read more about it, you can read through some of my blogs and you can read through some of my on our website also, and we can send you some more in case you really want to explore this. Uh, yes, so I'm going to type it into, because some of you mentioned about the name. I'm going to type it to the chat window on your right. What does this mean? So this is the name of the site. You will see it on the chat window. www.less.works. You can probably go through that also and try to see how it kind of works. Fish philosophy, I have previously talked about in my previous webinars. So same way, I would like you to encourage and go through fish philosophy, which is also a wonderful transformation framework at an enterprise level, where a bunch of fishmongers and what they have been able to change across the world um, is something that you should also go through. I'm not going to give you all the details in this webinar, but a quick interview of what this brings to the table for us. So the fish philosophy talks about the very first part. When we talk about enterprise transformation, team transformation, it is very important for the leader to bring in fun. The process change, the moment you make it so very serious, it becomes that much more difficult for people to understand. So bring in play and fun. Bring in a culture of choosing your own attitude and making sure everybody behaves like adults. Bring in a habit or culture of everybody being there for each other and supporting each other in success and making someone's day every day. So this is something which is very, very important. So these 2-3 frameworks I talked about, openspaceagility.com, then fish philosophy, then I talked about the value driven behavior management. So these are few of the culture technologies that you can probably follow when we talk about enterprise agility, and I'm sure once you start experiment and working with them, you will definitely have more questions, but you will see the progress is that much more faster rather than just focus on one methodology or one particular way of thinking. So with that, I would like to summarize what we have just today discussed. Important part is not just to focus on the process part of it, but building trustworthy, empowered, and accountable teams. The approaches we talked about, open space agility, safe, less, all these need to be shared and they need to be focused along with the alignment to the business goals. Then setting rules of behavior, setting KRs and KPIs on which we say this is how we are going to be working. And last but not the least, focusing on zero tolerance for negativism. So that is something which is very, very important for the whole organization to summarize, to be able to internalize and then take it forward from there. If you need to have more details, more specific, please feel free to write to me. My information will be coming up shortly. So unfortunately, because we're running out of time, I may not be able to answer specific questions around less and safe. I've given you the website so you can discuss more about this. In case you still need more details, please feel free to write to me offline at the rate info@agivetta.com, and we'll be very happy to help you there. And same about fish philosophy, I can send you some videos. So if you have any of these specific questions, you can listen. I would now also like to just to take this opportunity as we close. We are hosting a very large gathering for the Scrum community in Bangalore in June, the Global Scrum Gathering, which is coming to India for the very first time. So in case some of you want to be part of it and attend and listen to more than 500 practitioners from across the globe, please join me there. And the last mantra which I've always given, so keep your antennas and ears open, keep on absorbing knowledge and be enlightened. I have answered a lot of questions. In case you want to reach out to me, these are some of our websites and spaces where you can reach us. And Rajesh also asked this question. So for our previous webinar and this one, we are going to shortly make the recordings available on our website. So please keep on watching that space, so you can write to us, and we'll be happy to help you. So with this, I'd like to sign out and wish you a very happy Agile journey. And in case you have any doubts, I'll be very happy to contribute at any stage of your learning. So thank you very much. Have a nice evening.